If you care about living soil and real results in your garden, make sure you subscribe to Evergreen Garden right now and drop a comment as you watch, because what I'm about to share can change how fast your soil comes alive. This isn't theory, it's practical soil biology you can use today. Many gardeners wait months for worms to show up after adding compost, but there is one common kitchen scrap that brings worms faster than compost when used correctly, and most people either misuse it or misunderstand why it works. Why worms don't rush into compost the way you expect is the first thing to understand. Compost is excellent for long-term soil building, but finished compost is already stable and broken down. Worms prefer food that is actively decomposing because that's where microbial activity explodes. Worms don't actually eat raw scraps or compost itself, they feed on the bacteria and fungi growing on that material. So when you add something that wakes microbes up fast, worms follow within days instead of weeks. So, the kitchen scrap that really outperforms compost when it comes to attracting worms is actually fresh watermelon rind. And, this is where getting it right makes a real difference. Far too many gardeners just toss fruit scraps around and sort of expect magic to happen. Now, watermelon rind works its wonders not because it's sweet, but because it's over 90% water, loaded with simple carbohydrates and, well, it breaks down extremely fast without turning acidic. That particular combination sparks a microbial bloom that worms can actually sense underground almost straight away. The way watermelon rind triggers a surge of worms really comes down to moisture and sugars working together. When you bury watermelon rind just beneath the surface, it releases moisture directly into dry soil, while at the same time it's feeding the bacteria. Quite remarkable, really. Within 48 to 72 hours, bacterial colonies multiply rapidly. Worms detect this increase in microbial activity through chemical signals in the soil and, move toward it. Compost, by comparison, often just sits there quietly unless it's still actively decomposing. How to apply watermelon rind correctly matters more than quantity. Chop the rind into pieces roughly 2 to 3 inches wide. Smaller pieces break down faster and, spread microbial growth more evenly. For every square meter of garden bed, use about 2 cups of chopped rind. Bury it 2 to 3 inches deep, never deeper than 4 inches, because worms feed close to the surface where oxygen is available. Cover the soil lightly and, if the ground is dry, water once. What happens in the soil during the first week is where most gardeners get surprised. Within about 3 days, the soil above the rind becomes noticeably darker and just a bit warmer, which is really a sign of microbial activity. By day 5 to 7, worms begin clustering directly above and around the buried rind. If you gently dig after 1 week, you'll often find several worms in a space that previously had none. This effect is strongest in soils that were compacted, sandy, or, just biologically inactive before. Why watermelon rind works better than banana peels or kitchen scraps deserves a bit of clarity. Banana peels decompose slower and can actually attract pests. Citrus scraps, on the other hand, are acidic and tend to repel worms at first. Coffee grounds are excellent, but work best when composted first. Watermelon rind hits the balance of neutral pH, rapid breakdown, and moisture release without creating sour conditions. That is why worms arrive faster compared to adding finished compost alone. How often you should use this method depends on your soil condition. In poor or lifeless soil, applying watermelon rind once every 2 weeks during warm seasons produces consistent results. In already healthy soil, once a month is enough to maintain worm populations. Overusing it can lead to excess moisture and temporary anaerobic spots, so moderation matters. Always rotate burial spots instead of using the same place repeatedly. Using this method in vegetable gardens gives practical results you can measure. Tomatoes planted in beds treated with watermelon rind 2 weeks before transplanting show stronger root development and improved early growth. Leafy greens benefit from increased nitrogen cycling caused by worm activity. In raised beds, this method can replace early compost applications and jumpstart biological activity when soil temperatures are still warming up. How this fits into an evergreen soil building strategy is important for serious gardeners. Watermelon rind is not a replacement for compost. Compost builds structure and long-term fertility, while watermelon rind acts as a biological trigger. The best results come from combining both. First, apply compost to improve soil structure, and then use watermelon rind strategically to activate life within that compost. This pairing honestly creates faster nutrient cycling and much better root access. Common mistakes to avoid will save you frustration. Leaving rind on the surface attracts insects and animals instead of worms. Using too much in one spot creates slimy anaerobic conditions. Applying it in cold soil below 10 degrees Celsius slows microbial activity and reduces effectiveness. Always bury shallow, use small amounts, and time applications when soil is warm and slightly moist. Once worms establish themselves, they continue working long after the rind is gone. Worm castings improve soil aggregation, increase nutrient availability, and enhance water retention. Over time, this leads to healthier plants with fewer inputs. This is how gardeners move from feeding plants to feeding soil life, which is the foundation of sustainable gardening. If this guide helped you rethink how you attract worms and build living soil, subscribe to Evergreen Garden for more practical, proven gardening knowledge. Share this with a fellow gardener who's struggling with dead soil, and leave a comment below about what you've tried in your garden and what results you've seen.